But don't come back to me and tell me we cannot give health insurance to 46 million people in this country, but we can give government bailouts to Wall Street. You can call it whatever you want. You can say it was a necessity, although I question that, and I'll explain why. But the bottom line is either you're consistent or you're not. You just don't bail out, the wealthy guys on Wall Street. But it goes deeper than that. It really does. Anyway, here was the vote today. The Democrats voted 141 to 94 for the bill. Shockingly, and to Mr. Bush's dismay, I might add, the Republicans voted 132 to 66 against. One member did not vote. So his own party essentially said to Mr. Bush today, fool us once, shame on you. Fool us twice, shame on us. Well, let's see here. Where do we take it from here? Now, here's where the problem is. The financial markets, if they don't get an infusion of cash, we have a problem. All right? And here's where we're going to run into a problem. Nobody will let anybody borrow for anything. You need a student loan, ain't going to happen. You need a car loan, it's going to get tougher and tougher. You need to buy a home, need mortgage arrangements with any mortgage provider, you're going to run into more obstacles than you ever have just based on where we are today. Now, here's where this gets real ugly. A lot of big businesses, especially ones that are in the red, for example, a good example would be General Motors. General Motors lost $39 billion last year. In order to meet its payroll, General Motors has to borrow money. They just don't have it. They're not liquid. Liquid means you get cash on hand, okay? If you hear that term and you don't understand exactly what it means. So if you're a big corporation like General Motors or some of these corporations that have massive payrolls with enormous numbers of employees, a lot of times they just don't happen to have that much money in their bank checking account to stroke checks to all of their employees for payroll. They have to go out and borrow this money. Now, as a result of the fact that this thing has failed today, the ability for a lot of these corporations to not only conduct business day to day, but also to meet their payroll obligations could indeed come to a grinding halt. That's pretty scary.
Well, they've already given $25 billion to the auto industry.
Well, they promised them that. I mean, I don't know where they keep getting the money. Again, this is a supposed subsidy loan that the automakers are supposed to get to the tune of, what did you say, $25 billion?
Yeah.
Okay, exactly. Now, none the least of which is this problem. We talked before on the program a lot of times about gas rationing back in the 70s. What do you think about this? You go to your ATM machine here in about 2 weeks, and you try to get $100 out of the ATM machine, it may not be there. You may get a thing up on the screen that says, we're sorry, can't process transaction at this time, try later. And if you try later or try at another machine or go to another bank, you ain't going to get any money out of their ATM either. So this is the problem that these numbskulls have put us into. The country has been burning to the ground for 10 years, as I have been telling you on this program, day in and day out, every day, for months. You cannot sustain an economy under the weight of all the debt that we have in this country. Whether it's corporate debt, whether it's personal debt, it doesn't matter. You just look at the numbers, and they stagger the imagination, and you say to yourself, wait a minute, at some point this whole thing has to fall apart. This is like a giant Ponzi scheme that we're all involved in here. We're borrowing money, billions a day from China and all these places just so we can function, $3 billion a day just to pay the interest. On the interest alone, it's costing us $3 billion a day. To conduct business as a nation, we borrow $1.4 billion a day from foreign lenders. So the country's been burning to the ground for 10, 15 years now, while President Nero and his 535 arsonists are playing their fiddles. Now, here's what I want to know. clowns went on a 5-week recess before they came back for their last session in September. Before Friday, the 26th, they were supposed to all leave. They were supposed to recess until after the elections. What were they going to do? Go campaign. Go play golf with lobbyists like the business as usual. Now, are you going to sit here and you're going to try to tell me, that Secretary Paulson, Hank Paulson, and Ben Bernanke, the head honcho at the Fed, didn't see this coming months ago? And that certainly before Congress took that 5-week hiatus before they came back in September, that somebody as well connected as Paulson, the former CEO of Goldman Sachs, which, oh, by the way, is one of the only 2 remaining investment banks of its kind left standing. Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley, folks, that's it. The rest of them are gone. And even Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley have changed their designation or changed their status from an investment bank to a commercial bank. Why? Why, so that they can get some money from the federal government. In this process, it's so much easier for them to become eligible for some of these big loan possibilities that now exist as a result of everything that's been going on the last couple of weeks by changing their status to commercial bank. All right, so now we've got Mr. Paulson here. Somebody as well connected as that, the former CEO of Goldman Sachs, the same guy in November that told us the fundamentals of the economy are strong. In February, in front of Congress, told us the fundamentals of the economy are strong. Bush has told us repeatedly, and as recently as July the 11th, the fundamentals of the economy are strong. You're going to tell me these guys didn't see this coming? And if Paulson didn't see it coming, as well connected as he is on Wall Street, then he's a dumbass. And I don't believe that for a minute. Now let me tell you, let's just go back a couple of days here. This started last week with a simple 3-page request, which frankly was unacceptable to you, the taxpayer. They were going to try to fast-track this thing, basically scribbled down on paper, quick. We need 700, all these months, they have been telling us. Everything's fine, everything's fine, everything's fine. Panic! So here comes a 3-page request from Bush and from Paulson for $700 billion bailout with no oversight and no recourse in the unlikely event Mr. Paulson would bend the law or abridge the Constitution. Okay? You understand what I'm talking about here? Let me read Section 8 of the buyout agreement again. This is what they tried to pull on you last week. Decisions by the Secretary pursuant to the authority of this act are non-reviewable and committed to agency discretion and may not be reviewed by any court of law or any administrative agency. In other words, give us the $700 billion.
And let's circumvent the checks and balances.
Absolutely. And then we'll just turn our whole system over. Turn over $700 billion to the Treasury Secretary. Turn over the U.S. Treasury to the thieves on Wall Street who got us into this mess in the first place. Some of those CEOs, according to CNN, some of those, actually the companies, some of these companies, according to CNN, this is what their CEOs put them in the position and how they put them in a position to fail. For every dollar of assets that most of these companies that have folded up over the last 10 days had, for every dollar in assets that they had $33 in liabilities. So we were going to turn over the U.S. Treasury to the same thieves on Wall Street who got us into this mess with no public discussion, no open debate, just hurry up and do this or the economy's going to collapse. And my first question, obviously, and what guarantee is there that that'll fix the problem? That this isn't a roll of the dice that could put us deeper in the hole if it doesn't work.
And they'll also protect that $150 million the CEOs are going to take with them when they leave.
Or didn't already leave with, Todd.
For doing such a fine job.
Here's an email from Blade. The rats are